What an incredibly incisive, powerful, complex book this was to understand. So many layers, so many metaphors. The analysis of the human psyche, the effects of society on it, alienation, and again, by extension, depression, self worth, identity, your effect on the people around you, and their effect on you. All of it is so incredibly intelligently handled by Kafka. We'll get into all the themes and the metaphors and such, but I just wanted to give a quick shout out to a different book. It's nowhere close to the scope of this one. It's a young adult novel series called Animorphs by K.A. Applegate. I read it at a very young age, so it must be in the young adult genre. If you want more people turning into insects and animals, literally, then this might be something you want to pick up. But getting back to Metamorphosis, I'm going to consider him turning into a cockroach or a dung beetle or many different ways in which this is translated from German, but consider that as a metaphor for depression, alienation, loneliness, all of these factors. We are going to imagine Gregor Samsa as a person who is sick. And this is not because I don't like cockroaches or anything, and not because the author is trying to convey some message by turning him into a cockroach, but precisely because none of the events in the book would have turned out differently had Gregor just been ill. Nothing would have changed if Gregor just acted like he was sick and not like a cockroach. That is the genius of writing. You have this hook, of course, that your main character turns into a beetle overnight when he wakes up and becomes a cockroach. Sure, but that's nowhere related or even comes close to the ideas this author is tackling. He just wants to get the point across that if you as a human being look at a cockroach, look at an insect, you are repulsed by it. So he turned Gregor into that. But if you were showing some aversion towards rabbits, let's say, then the story would be exactly the same if he turned into a rabbit. So that's one thing that I want to get out of the way before I begin. And one last thing is that we are going to focus a bit more on Gregor's point of view throughout the book as the book follows, of course. But just bear in mind that the other characters in the book, again, a typical family, an overbearing dad figure, there is a caring but careful sister, and the weeping mother who is, again, overly caring and kind to Gregor, who is unable to come to terms with what has happened to him. They all have their own motivations for sure. But I want to keep my thoughts in alignment with Gregor, if that's okay. Okay, so to begin with, you wake up and you realize you're sick. You are not able to leave your room. So, how do you react in such a situation? Let's begin there. There is a sense of loss of identity. Again, all of this is made very clear that Gregor derives his sense of identity from the work he does, from the money he generates and provides to his family, is how he gains their respect. He is a member of society and he is viewed highly because of the work he does. You are not able to do that, you lose that identity. What else are you? You are a brother, you are a son to your mom and dad. You lose all of that because you are no longer that. You are an invalid who is a vegetable sitting in your room all day, every day. And again, let's just give it to Gregor that none of it is his fault, as is the case with many a mental illness. You are not in control. Okay, in that situation, how do you deal with it? Now, number one is you lose your sense of self identity. Second one is shame. Again, I've made very clear that because Gregor is not able to provide for his family, he is not able to face them. And again, we have seen so many examples or so many advices thrown around to people with mental illness that you have to communicate and you have to, again, keep a support system around you to get out of it. But what if in your own mind you don't see yourself as worthy of that communication? What if you fail in your own eyes and you don't feel like talking to anyone? Again, very common, and this is exactly what happens with Gregor as well. So these two things I latched on to right from the beginning, and I'm not sure I would have reacted any differently if I became a cockroach tomorrow. There is nothing you can do but sit back, take a look at your life, remember the good old days, and live in nostalgia and dreams, and hope that things will get better over time, but they won't because you gave up. And that is because the people around you will not respect you because you are invalid now. That is how this society works. You are at a certain point in your life, at a certain stature that gives you that respect from other people. Once you cut that off, you won't get the respect, and it's a downward spiral all the way long. Just to come up with that idea, you have to be a genius, and that is Kafka for you. It's not for lack of trying, also. There are multiple things here that are used to show that Gregor is trying to connect back to humanity. He's doing that by protecting this picture of a woman on whom he clings to when his sister and mother come to clean it. There is the violin, again, very importantly. He again appreciates the violin much more than any of the other people around, let's say the three gentlemen tenants or his mother and father even. He understands what his sister is doing and he genuinely adores her for playing the violin and music in itself. He is able to use music to move him. Does that not make him human? So this theme again of being between a cockroach and humanity is constantly reinforced. Are you human or are you an animal? And how will other people treat you if you are one or the other? Will Gregor's father have changed and got a job, or his mother got the contract work that she does if Gregor had not fallen ill? I don't think so. It was necessary for Gregor to fall ill for his family to change. And in a way, what Gregor wanted to do in the end was help his family, and he did that by turning into a cockroach. All he had to do was shut himself off, not give them money as he had imagined, not give them, I don't know what else he would have gotten them, maybe a bigger house, gotten his sister married, let's say, earned a better position at the traveling salesman company he was working at with that annoying clerk and manager. Let's say he achieved all of that. The end result of all of that was for his family to do better. That was the main driving force for Gregor to do all of this. But in the end, I believe that all he had to do was give up, take a break, die. And this is a very dangerous thought, to see yourself as a burden on your family because you have depression. when you are not in control of anything and you realize that all you had to do was die in his final moments. That's all Gregor wanted. His self-esteem has been eroded over time by so many different ways. Everyone disrespected him, including his own father, who threw apples at him, for one, and chased him around the house with a newspaper, or the sister who didn't care to check on him if he had eaten food or not. When you cut all of that off, when you have people like that around you, you lose your self-worth and all you want is to die. And turns out dying is what made the family better. If Gregor knew, he would have done that long ago. The father was the person who didn't understand that Gregor was trying to help. He was lazy, he failed at his business, and he depended on Gregor to bring money to the table at home. But now that that had stopped, it lit a fire under all of their butts, and they are all working now, and the family is much better to do than whatever Gregor would have come up with by working more and earning more. So we are faced with a harsh truth in the end that you can break people by alienating them, isolating them, treating them badly, and when you do all of this, you make the person welcome death, a person who is in a troubled state of mind, and it's very easy to do that. All Gregor needed was some little bit of help. He just needed his sister to look him in the eye when she was playing the violin. That's all he wanted. But he didn't get that, and when that happened, something broke in him, and he accepted death with a smile, I would imagine. Again, we can get into the character motivations of his sister, who also wanted power in the family. We can get into the father's mindset with his failed business. We can get into the metaphors of how the three gentleman tenants represent society and how they would react to seeing something like this. Again, we can do many things, but the core of Kafka's message is to not alienate yourself. Have a backup plan. If your identity is based on the work you do, and if that doesn't work, then have something else to build up your identity, because if you lose that identity, then you're done for. Have friends that genuinely want good for you, and if you are not getting anything from them in terms of, let's say, respect or a fun time just for the sake of arguments, then cut them, because that is how you build your own self-respect in your own eyes. Try to cling on to humanity and people around you. Connect with them in a way that only you can. Give your personal touch to it, because that is you. And don't let go of that. Don't build up this image of yourself in your head that is based on what other people think of you. You have to have an individuality, and you have to use that to impress other people with. And that is how you can again feel connected to humanity, because that is what makes you human. Again, many different ways to interpret this work. And again, I'm sure I'm getting only a fraction of what the author was intending to convey. It's a very difficult text in that sense, and many different interpretations can be made of the same thing. And this was mine. It has left me with more questions than answers. For example, how would my life change if I turned into a cockroach? Would people around me treat me the same way they did here? What would be different? Also, another minor observation. all the family had to do was change their mindset, right? They all wanted to be motivated to do something to earn on their own. A shift in attitude, let's say, which was caused by Gregor not bringing in any more money. So, did you really need Gregor to go through this, to do all that, or could you have done it without the hardship that you had to endure? Or is hardship necessary for you to get to that point of standing on your own feet? Again, more questions than answers, like I said. Thank you so much for listening. It's an incredible book. I can't stop thinking about it, and it will stay in my mind for quite a while. Thank you. Bye.